Hello, my dear students. Welcome to my channel. Here we'll study the 12th standard biology. Lesson number 2, reproduction in higher and lower animals. Part 5. Here we'll study about the puberty in males and puberty in females and the menstrual cycle of female body or sexual maturation in males. Puberty is the age at which the reproductive system becomes functional. Sex organs begins to produce gametes and sex hormones. In male and onset of puberty occurs at the age from 12 to 15 years under the influence of testosterone. The secondary sexual character appears, therefore, it remains functional through the life. So, as you can see in a figure, the following changes will happen in the male body during the puberty or sexual maturity in the female. The reproductive system becomes functional at puberty. It is characterized by onset of menstrual cycle, also called as monarchy, which usually occurs at age 10 to 14 years. However, unlike in the males, the mature female shows cyclic changes in their reproductive system. The menstrual cycle. These cycles continue only up to menopause. This normally happens at age 45 to 50 years. The period from monarchy to menopause is thus the reproductive age of the female. The female is unable to bear children by natural method after menopause. Menarche or menstrual cycles and menopause are controlled by gonadotrophic hormone. Menstrual cycle or the ovarian cycle. Menstrual cycle is a characteristic feature of a primates, including human. It involves a series of cyclic changes in the ovary and the female reproductive tract, mainly in the uterus. These changes take place under the effect of gonadotropism and the ovarian hormones respectively. The cycles are repeated with a periodically of approximately 28 days. The middle of each cycle is characterized by the release of an egg. This egg in every cycle comes alternatively from one of the two ovaries. The cycle is divided into four phases: menstrual phase, post-menstrual phase, and other the other phase is also called as the luteal phase. Menstrual phase. The beginning of each cycle is taken as the first day, where means or loss of blood 45 to 100 ml takes place, and it lasts for approximately 5 days, average 3 to 7 days. Endometrium of uterus breaks down under the effect of prostate gland releases due to decreased level of progesterone and estrogen. Due to this, blood tissue, fluid, mucus, endometrial lining, and the unfertilized oocyte is discharged through vagina. The endometrial lining becomes very thin, that is about 1 mm. The menstrual discharge continues for an average of 5 days. However, this blood does not clot due to the presence of fibrinolysin. Menstrual phase occurs when an ovulated egg does not get fertilized and it is thereby shed. out along with the menstruum. It is thus called funeral of unfertilized egg. During these 5 days, many primordial follicles develop into primary and few of them into secondary follicles under the effect of FSH. Proliferative phase or follicular phase or post-menstrual phase. This phase is the duration between the end of menstruation and release of ovum, that is ovulation. During of this duration of this phase is more variable than the other phases. Generally, it extends from 5th to 13th day of menstrual cycle. A few 6 to 12 secondary follicles proceed to develop, but usually one of them develops into a Graafian follicle or the mature follicle. The other secondary follicles degenerates. This process is also called as the degeneration is also called as the aristresia. Developing secondary follicle secretes the hormone estrogen. Its stimulation of proliferation of new follicle is influenced by gonadotrophic hormone which stimulates and releases the FSH. Endometrium begins to regenerate under the effect of gradually increasing quantity of estrogen. Recognition also involves the formation of endothelial cells, the endometrial or uterine glands, and network of blood vessels. Thickness of endometrium reaches 3 to 5 mm. Ovulatory phase. It is the shortest phase of menstrual cycle. It involves rupturing of the mature Graafian follicle and releases from ovum secondary oocyte into a pelvic cavity, usually on 14th day of menstrual cycle. Rapid secretion of LH by passive feedback mechanism causes the mature follicle to rupture. Ovulation may be accompanied by mild or severe pain in the lower abdomen. Secretory or the luteal phase. Duration of this phase is between the ovulation and the beginning of the next menses. This phase is the longest phase. It lasts for 14 days from 15 to 28 days of the cycle after release of secondary oocyte. Remaining tissue of gradient follicle transfers into corpus luteum under the effect of LH. Corpus luteum begins to secrete progesterone and estrogen. The ovulated egg may not get fertilized within 24 hours, however, in the absence of fertilization, corpus luteum can survive for only 2 weeks and then degenerates into a white scar called corpus albicans. The corpus albicans release progesterone, small amount of estrogen and inhibit under the influence of these hormones. The endometrial glands grows, become coiled and start uterine secretion. Endometrium becomes more vascularized and thickness up to 8 to 10 mm. Inhibition stops secretion of FSH. These changes are necessary for fertilization and subsequent implantation. However, if the if ovulated egg gets fertilized and the embryo is implanted, there is secretion of human chronic.
gonadotropin, which extends the life of corpus luteum and stimulates its secretory activity. Presence of HCG in maternal blood and urine is an indicator of pregnancy. In absence of fertilization, next menstrual cycle begins.
So, as you can see here, we have studied in detail the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is the monthly series of hormonal and psychological changes a person's body goes through to prepare for a potential pregnancy, being with the first day of one menstrual period and ending the day before the next. Key events include the thickening of the uterine lining and the release of an egg from the ovary. If pregnancy does not occur, hormone level drops, causing the uterine lining to break down and be shed as menstrual bleeding. The key aspect, the first one is the hormonal control. The cycle is orchestrated by hormones, primarily estrogen and progesterone, which rise and fall to regulate the process involved. The second one is the uterine preparation. The lining of the uterus or womb thickens to provide a receptive environment for a fertilized egg. The next one is the ovulation. An egg is released from an ovary, which then travels through the fallopian tube, where it can be fertilized by sperm. The next one is the menstruation. If no fertilization occurs, the uterine lining is no longer needed and is shed during menstruation, which is the visible bleeding that marks the start of a next cycle. Now, the cycle length. The average cycle is about 28 days but varies from person to person, with typical length ranging from 21 to 35 days. Now we'll see here the phases of the menstrual cycle. The cycle can be divided into phases based on the dominant process. The first one is the follicular phase or the proliferative phase. In this phase, follicles within the ovary develops and the uterine lining starts to thicken in response to rising estrogen level. The second one is the ovulatory phase. The ovulation, the release of mature egg occurs during this phase. The next one is the luteal phase or secretory phase. After ovulation, the uterine lining continues to develop in preparation for a potential pregnancy. If pregnancy doesn't occur, hormone level decreases, leading to the menstruation. Now, we'll see here the simpler definition of the menstruation. The monthly cycle of hormonal changes from the beginning of one menstrual period to the beginning of the next. During the monthly menstrual cycle, the lining of the uterus thickens to prepare for pregnancy. If pregnancy does not occur, the estrogen and progesterone hormone level being falling. Now, the term menstruation originated from the Latin word menses, which means month, and the Greek word mean, which refers to the moon. The ancient times, the menstrual cycle was thought to be related to the moon cycle because both cycle last around. Okay, now um a normal period cycle lasts anywhere from 21 to 35 days, counted from the first day of one period to the
first day of the next. The average is around 28 days, but cycle length can vary significantly between individuals and change over time. Period themselves usually 3 to 7 days. Now we will see here the key aspect of the normal cycle. Cycle length it varies 21 to 35 days in considered normal. Now duration of bleeding typically 3 to 7 days. Hormonal control the cycle is regulated by hormones produced by the hypothalamus, pituitary, and ovaries. Now, phases. The cycle can be divided into phases follicular and luteal, where the body prepares for potential pregnancy. Now, I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe and press on the bell icon to get notified for every new video. As you all know, my dear students, daily I am updating the new video on my channel. One day, the video educational related with the education will come, and the another day the short video will come. So I have taken this challenge for the 100 days, 100 days, 100 videos. So please, it's a humble request to subscribe and watch the full video without skipping or without forwarding this video. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for watching.